Hello everyone, we are live on air with Live on Air, and welcome back to another Philosophy Thoughts episode with me, Olivia Calladine Smith, your host. I'm a university student at the University of Bristol studying philosophy and French, and I have a passion for philosophical debate and meaningful current discussions. Now, I want to show you how you can use philosophy to tackle your everyday life problems as well as other ethical dilemmas. We will be going from discussions on social media, AI and other current affairs to crime, relationships and tips for success and growth. Live on Air is a safe space where you can contribute your controversial and uncomfortable questions so that I can discuss them and tackle them with you all. And for the students out there, you will also be gaining exclusive tips and advice to academic success. I cannot wait to discuss with you all in this judgment-free zone. You can expect to start thinking like a true philosopher. You're watching Live on Air. Wow, hello everyone. I am back, but not in my original studio. I think a lot of you have probably already seen where I've been. I did post it on my social media about my operation and I had my university exams. So yeah, it has been a while, but I am so happy to be back. I'm actually at university right now. I am in Bristol, so I am not at my studio in London. I do miss my studio a lot, but yeah, I have got my new setup for the time being. I do really like it actually. I like the pink plant behind me. It's not real, but yeah. So today, as you have seen by the title, what do I actually think about the new social media ban for under 16-year-olds? Do I think it is ethically right? And yeah, there's obviously a big uproar, especially for the under 16s who are not allowed social media. Now for me, obviously I'm nearly 20 now, so it doesn't affect me. And obviously even though I can sympathize with them, it's like I haven't really thought about it that much because obviously it doesn't affect me. So but I can imagine for the 16-year-olds at the moment, this must be a really life-changing thing. This is probably going to be like something that's quite a big deal in like secondary schools at the moment, a topic that all the students are going to be talking about, whereas, you know, for our age group we're not really talking about it as much, but I still think it's important for me to have my take on it, because although it might not affect me now, I can think back to when I was 16, how I would have taken this, and you know, it's important because we are all part of the same generation. So obviously I know there's two split views. We have the older generation and then we have the younger generation, the under 16s. Most older people obviously think this is a really good thing. I think I can say that confidently. And then we have like the younger generation who are obviously not happy about it. And you know what? I'm kind of placed in the middle, because whilst I'm still part of this younger generation, I'm 19, I'm not far off those kids who have had this ban imposed upon them, but then at the same time it doesn't affect me. So yeah, if I was to answer the question, do I think that the ban is ethically right? I mean, there's so many different elements to it. Now, not to go into like, you know, the ulterior motives that the government might have by like putting this ban in place, for example, trying to introduce the digital ID, which a lot of people didn't want. So this might be just one of those ways of doing that, without going too much into that, because we don't want to get into the politics of it. We want to stay on the political philosophy side. Do I think it's ethically right? Yes, I do. But I do think there needs to be some precautions. And, you know, with anything, with making a big change in the law, it's going to have different effects, and a lot of those need to be taken into consideration. Now, I can see it from two different points of view, but I think overall this is ethically right, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain why not as well. I'll start by saying, like, for me personally, as a 19-year-old who kind of grew up in the social media age, but also it was only just kind of getting off the ground when I was kind of going into my teenage years, I wouldn't say that the social media industry is the same. It isn't the same today as it was when I first went on it. There wasn't as much promotion. There wasn't as much like of a need for people to like kind of create a false reality. It was genuinely just a place where people would just put like what they're up to. So yeah, it's definitely changed, and I think today the under 16s experience a different social media to what I experienced, even though there's only a 3-year gap. But I think, well, below, well, it's not actually for 16, it's not actually banned for 16s, it's banned for under 16. So yeah, 4-year gap and so on. I think it's very different. It's a lot more dangerous today than it was when I had social media. Now, do I think it's ethically right? Well, perhaps I'm biased, because if I look back on my kind of early teenage years, do I think I would have benefited from not being on social media so early? Absolutely. Do I think that young children, young children from, ages, I'd say like 10, 11, who are on social media now, some at 13, 12, having full-on careers, influencer careers on there. Do I think that that's positive? Well, in some ways, yes. We know there's social media influencers who are 14, 13, who are doing makeup routines, who are doing, their daily lives. And I think whilst this is really good, they're finding like a career path for themselves. Obviously, that's their passion. I mean, it's quite sad. I'm sure some of the young people who are influencing, who are under 16, who have built pages, who have worked just as hard as someone who's above 16 and is getting commission paid for their content. I think that's devastating. I mean, they've had that taken away from them, and whether they find a way around that, I don't know, but I do think it is devastating for them, that especially when they've created such like a big, or they have such an audience and they've got their careers on there and they're earning money. I think that's probably quite detrimental to them. For the rest of the under 16s, I think partly it's going to be a mental shock for them. At the end of the day, we all know social media is addictive. Excuse me. Social media is addictive, and taking that social media away from them, although social media has imposed mental health on kind of young people, and a lot of them have mental health problems as a result of social media, taking it away is also going to have like an effect, because they are addicted. A lot of them use it as an escape, and I don't know where a lot of them will turn when they don't have something that they've been so used to every single day of their lives. There's not even been like kind of like a warm into it. It's just been like straight, like I wake up the next day, I don't have social media, I'm not allowed on it. Like, wow, I can imagine just having that taken away from me immediately is probably quite difficult. And as much as like older people try and make it out as if they're like petty for being like their children, like, oh come on, like get a life, go and like be a child, stop like whatever complaining. I'm sure if any adult right now was to have a social media ban like that, a lot of us are addicted. So if we were to have that taken away from us, I'm sure our response would be the same. Personally, the reason I think this is an ethically right thing to do is, despite all of that, I think it's very clear that social media has such a bad effect on young people and on everyone. And I think if we can protect anyone, it's going to be the younger generation, because they are naive. They have so much to learn. And I think introducing things like social media too soon can die out their passions. It can instill things in them that they're going to take into their adulthood too soon. I think if they get it later on, they've had time to develop. They've had time to find themselves. But social media takes that away from them quite quickly. So I think if we can protect those minors and protect their mental health, protect their self-confidence, protect all of those things, I think that's really, really important. And that's why I think overall it is a really good thing, even though they might struggle at first, especially the generation that are experiencing it firsthand. I think for them it's going to be really difficult, but I think for years to come, it's going to have, in terms of like its long-term benefits, I think it's going to improve the overall mental health of young people more than it's going to deteriorate it. I think there's just so much on social media now, you can get access to so much, and I think it's so dangerous. And at that age, at 14, I was so naive. I can't imagine like receiving all that information that there is today and consuming social media when I was 14 in the way that it is now. I mean, it is getting quite out of hand, and I think we have to protect like the young people from it. Now, like I said, whether the government had that altruistic kind of motive is another question, but has the implementation of this law had benefits anyway? Yes, absolutely. Now, although I did say that I think this ban is ethically right, I go back to kind of the discussion of like influencers, young influencers. Now, it's not my place to say whether I think that is a sustainable career for young people, and whether that's an easy route out for a lot of them at young age. But I think part of me thinks that actually learning to not document your life every single day, because even for me, right, I pretty much document a lot of my stuff on social media, and I do think that part of that is a habit. It's something that I instilled from a young age, from simply being 14 and sending like a snap to my friends like, oh, this is what I'm eating, to then it escalating to, oh, this is what I'm eating, to 3k followers. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't affect me, but I do think like, why do I do that? And I actually had someone ask me the other day, like, why do you post your food like that? Like, why do you do that? And I was just like, well, some people want inspiration of the healthy meals that I'm eating, so that's why I do it. But like, not everything has I don't think I'd have a reason for every single thing that I post. And part of that is like subconscious. I'm just doing it subconsciously. And I think whilst it doesn't really harm me, I think it would probably be better not to do that, because I'd rather be living in the moment rather than like documenting everything and then sharing it. So I do think it gives the younger generation opportunity to not have a habit like mine. Like I said, it's not a detrimental thing, but I just think it's better not to do that. And also for your own safety, like not documenting where you are 24/7, like just having a bit more privacy. And I think for them, it's an opportunity to have that privacy. It's hard to say, but I just think that, yeah, whilst it is difficult that like some of them won't be able to like earn money and stuff anymore, but perhaps it opens up new opportunities. But like, especially if you're struggling in school and you just prefer to do like social media, and that's something that you were born or made to do, and you have the confidence to do that, and you're passionate about that can be very hard to like have taken away from you. So yeah, I do think that is kind of poses a problem for some of them. What the government should do about that, I don't know. Whether TikTok should continue to pay them even though they can't be on there, who knows? I don't know. I mean, they are children at the end of the day. That's just a thought. Now I really want to go into, because this is all about political philosophy, and I've studied a lot about this in university. I've found it really, really interesting. Discussions on the state, discussions on liberty. This is how it kind of comes into philosophy, and we are somewhat taking away people's liberties. Now, these are children that we're talking about, but every human has a right to have some sort of liberty, right? So the discussion really here of, is it ethical or not? Well, the question is also, what do we deserve as humans? Do we deserve to have certain liberties and certain responsibilities for ourselves? Now, a lot of people say that like we have freedom of choice, and like by taking away social media from under 16s, they no longer have an opportunity to be responsible, but also their freedom has been taken from them in some way. Now, do I agree with that? Well, for me, the definition of freedom is actually when you have a freedom of choice, you are fully aware of the choice that you're making, right? And that's a free choice. When you actually know, okay, I have this choice or I have this choice, you know what each choice entails, right? Like, you know what the repercussions is, you know what it involves, etc. That's a free choice, and if you make that choice and you know the repercussions, you know the like everything involved, then you've made a free choice, right? I don't think we're actually taking freedom away from under 16s by taking away social media, because I don't think them choosing to be on it, I don't think that's actually a free choice. I think the fact that it's put, one, right in front of them, but two, they don't even know what it entails. They don't even know the effects. I don't even think most adults know the effects of social media. I don't actually think that's a free choice for them, because they're not even aware of what it's doing to them. And I'm sure if you actually sat down and you showed them what it was doing to them and some of the risks that there are, and the fact that they are so naive and they don't really understand what's going on, I think they would probably choose not to be on it. And that makes me feel like perhaps we're not really taking away their freedom. I think it's the government's responsibility as people who actually know how social media works and what's behind it. it would be their responsibility to protect those young people from the risks. The proof is in the pudding. Like I said in my last social media episode, watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix and you'll see just how bad social media is. And for a lot of us who had now made it a habit, like a proper habit, like we are adults, it's kind of hard to come off of it. We've grown up with it for a bit longer, but for young people who are moving into their teens, if we can take this away before they even start, I think they are blessed to have that. It's a blessing in disguise is all I'm going to say to the under 16s. You might not believe me, but from my perspective, especially like even my studies, I got so distracted by social media. Like this is a benefit. They get to focus on their studies a bit more by not being on it. They don't grow this habit. And at least if they get to their GCSEs and they have like they're 16 and they have GCSEs, at least then they haven't got that habit. So even if they allowed it, they're not going to have built that habit up from like the age of 11, if that makes sense. So they're actually gonna be a little bit more productive, maybe. I hope that's the way it goes anyway. Like I said, I don't actually think that we are making young under 16-year-olds more free by giving them the opportunity to be on social media. I think the fact that they're not actually aware of the choice that they're making, I think in a way that actually makes them unfree. And as they say, rejection is redirection. Part of me feels like this really does hold when it comes to this conversation, because young people are being rejected from social media. They're not allowed to use it, but it is redirecting them to something perhaps better. I'm sure young people, they're going to have a bit of a kick up about it, and so they're not going to want to do anything to kind of like rebel and to prove that like without social media they're going to be bored. But I don't think they have the mind to be like, okay, I don't have this, so now this is my opportunity to like really succeed, like delve into my academics, or play more sports or something like that, or go for more walks or practice more meditation. Like I don't think they're going to see it like that unless you have like a really mature like 14-year-old. I'm not sure. Maybe some of them are going to rebel. I mean, people are going to find ways around it at the end of the day. So yeah, it's like I said, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, I think it's ethically right. There's going to be a lot of pushbacks. There's going to be a lot of repercussions because of it. I think the protection is needed. I think seeing how many young people and their mental health is being destroyed by social media, this is a crisis, and I think the only way around it is to get rid of it. I don't understand how it's actually affecting their mental health, their confidence, their being, who they actually become, their identity, all things that should be in their control. A lot of young people, even though they're influencers and they're earning money, I'm sure their mental health is still affected, because they're still, even though they're receiving a lot of love, they're also receiving a lot of hate. So these are all things that we're able to protect more and more now because of this law. And do I think I would like that at 16? I'd probably be annoyed, but now looking back when I was 16, do I wish that it was banned for me? Absolutely. And you know what, it's really important to note that, because once you turn 16 you can use social media, so the fact is more people are going to use it than not, right? Do I actually think social media is harmful? Well, it is, but also it takes a mature brain to kind of use it, one that has a bit more life experience. I think none of us are exempt to the effects, or like none of us are invincible. No, we're all affected, but I think it's actually the way we use it. And it's safe to say that, even me, I changed the way I use my social media. Like I said in some of my previous episodes, when I finished my A-levels, I got rid of certain social media platforms because I recognized that unless I was using it for a purpose, then it was going to affect me. You can use social media to your advantage. Nevertheless, I just think it's a really great opportunity for the under 16s to actually remove some of like perhaps a lot of people our age have a lot of trauma from having social media at a young age. So it's an opportunity for them to excel, probably even excel beyond us, because they don't have like any like holdbacks that we might have from having social media from a young age. There'll be a lot of people who do have like mental health problems because of having social media so young, and they'll still be trying to get over it at like 20 years old. Like, you don't know that. So it's a great opportunity, in my opinion. that is everything I have on today's episode. I think we've spoken about a lot of different things to do with the ban. I know there's going to be like so many different responses to this, but you know, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. So am I. So at the end of the day, this is political philosophy. It's all about ethics as well. So yeah, it's interesting to discuss this topic because it feeds into philosophy a lot. And I'm sure it's something that I could even like bring up in an essay, or you guys can bring up in an essay. Yeah, thank you so much guys for tuning in. Episodes will be dropping every other Tuesday as normal, and yeah, we are back. I can't wait to have so many amazing philosophy deep discussions with you. Since it's been a while, make sure to follow me on Instagram at liv.on.air, where you will find loads more snippets and information. And you can also find me on Spotify at LivOnAir, where you can find the audio versions to my podcast if you are on the go. I will see you in my next episode. It's Olivia Cadeline Smith, your host. Bye for now.